When you hear a sudden rustling sound outside your window tonight, your heart immediately races for a split second before you brush it off. But remember that for nearly 300,000 years, that sudden terrifying spike of fear was the absolute only thing keeping your body alive. You didn't initially rule this world. You were vulnerable prey, relentlessly hunted by half-ton beasts in a suffocating darkness that swallowed everything around you. This is exactly why the Ape to Legend channel exists, to dig up one ancestral secret every week. Hit subscribe and stay on this brutal journey. Today, modern doctors might simply call that sudden panic an anxiety attack or paranoia. But evolutionary psychologists have a very different name for it. They call it the hyperactive agency detection device. It means your ancient brain is rigidly hardwired to assume every snapping twig is a predator. If you stood in the grass, assumed it was just the wind, and you were wrong, your genes never made it to the next generation. We often comfortably imagine our prehistoric ancestors as brave, spear-wielding warriors conquering the wild. The brutal fossil record paints a much darker, bloodier reality. Stripped of modern comforts, your soft body possessed absolutely no sharp claws, no venom, and no thick armor to deflect a crushing fatal blow. You were entirely exposed on an open savanna that crawled with massive apex predators, all highly specialized in ripping vulnerable human flesh from bone. The terrifying saber-tooth cats stalked the tall grass, possessing dagger-like fangs specifically evolved to puncture deep into the thick necks of large, struggling prey. Giant hyenas, nearly the size of modern bears, roamed the twilight hours, boasting jaw muscles strong enough to shatter human leg bones like twigs. Picture yourself shivering in the absolute dark, listening to a low, rumbling growl echoing through the trees, vibrating deeply against your fragile, bare chest. Every dark shadow masked a potential killer. The chronic anxiety you feel today was forged in this exact crucible of unyielding daily survival terror. But to truly understand how deeply this fear is embedded in your nervous system, we must examine the ultimate ancient alarm bell inside you. Feel your pulse suddenly spike when you receive an unexpected late-night work email. Your stomach instantly drops, and a cold wave washes over you. Without you even trying, your muscles tense up, your breathing becomes shallow, and your entire body prepares for an immediate, violent physical confrontation. Why does a glowing screen cause such intense physical pain? Because the amygdala, the ancient primitive alarm bell inside your head, is completely blind. It doesn't know what an email, a deadline, or a social media notification is. It only understands one terrifying language: the threat of being eaten. When that digital ping hits your ears, your brain interprets it exactly like a snapping twig in the dark, signaling a predator is stalking you. For 99% of human history, adrenaline was never meant to help you handle office stress or worry about your modern financial problems. That chemical flood was high-octane fuel injected directly into your bloodstream, designed to help you sprint away from massive jaws that could crush your skull. It was designed to keep your legs pumping until your lungs burned, escaping the brutal reality that you were the weakest animal on the savannah. Right now, as you stare at your screen, your body is executing that exact same survival protocol, desperately dumping survival fuel into your veins. But you have nowhere to run, and no physical monster to fight. This agonizing tension is what scientists call an evolutionary mismatch. Your biology is functioning perfectly, doing exactly what kept your fragile ancestors alive through the harshest environments this planet has ever seen. The exhaustion you feel every single day is the heavy price of carrying a brain built for the Pleistocene epoch, trapped inside a modern bedroom. You are fighting ghosts of the past. The predators are gone, but the intricate alarm system they forced us to evolve is still screaming inside you. To truly grasp the sheer horror that programmed this biological system, we must leave the safety of our homes and travel deep into the past. We must reconstruct the brutal reality of an Ice Age night, where stepping outside the light meant being swallowed by the ultimate darkness. Let's completely reconstruct a typical night during the relentless Ice Age. The brutal cold instantly pierces your skin as the sun finally disappears. You are frantically huddled inside a damp, dark cave, pressing your fragile body against the cold stone, praying the darkness remains empty tonight. Outside your tiny sanctuary, the absolute apex predators of the Pleistocene epoch completely rule the frozen, desolate landscape with unmatched, terrifying physical power. The fossil records discovered deep inside Vogelherd Cave in Germany reveal the true physical nightmares of that era. The massive, relentless cave lion, known scientifically as Panthera spelaea, these magnificent but deadly beasts were at least 25% larger than any modern African lion alive today. Standing in the pitch black, your ancestors possessed absolutely no sharp claws, no venom, and no thick armor to deflect a crushing blow. Your only defense mechanism was a wildly hyperactive brain, screaming at your muscles to freeze or sprint the moment a twig snapped nearby. Imagine a massive shadow silently stalking you through the freezing snow. One single mistake, one slow reaction, meant you were permanently erased from history. It is a humbling realization that for the vast majority of human history, you were not sitting safely at the very top of the food chain. You were merely struggling prey, constantly looking over your shoulder, hoping that the rustling grass wasn't hiding a beast ready to tear you apart. The giant cave bears, weighing over half a ton, frequently contested your ancestors for the very caves you desperately needed to survive the winter. These terrifying 600-kilogram monsters wanted the exact same shelter you did. To sleep safely, you had to somehow hold back these unstoppable giants. Your nervous system was literally forged in this horrifying crucible. The intense anxiety that paralyzes you today was the exact vigilance that kept you breathing. Every rustle, every shadow, and every sudden movement in the dark was a brutal biological test that your brilliant ancestors successfully passed, night after night. But the predators were not just stalking you on the frozen ground. An entirely different, unseen nightmare was quietly waiting for you from above. As you look up at the wide, seemingly peaceful sky today, you must realize that the ancient heavens offered absolutely no safe refuge. In 1924, researcher Raymond Dart uncovered the Taung child, a tiny 2.5 million-year-old skull belonging to a very early human ancestor. For decades, scientists desperately tried to understand how this fragile child had died. The tiny fossil held an incredibly dark, terrifying secret. Researchers found deep, distinct puncture marks directly inside the eye sockets of the skull, indicating a brutal, sudden attack from a terrifying predator. Many experts now believe, a theory still actively debated, that these fatal wounds matched the massive talons of a giant prehistoric eagle. Imagine being a small, vulnerable hominid, wandering through the tall grass, when a sudden violent screech violently rips through the air above you. Before you could even process the terrifying sound, massive claws would pierce your skin and brutally snatch you completely off the solid ground. A deafening, rushing wind would swallow your ears as you were carried helplessly into the sky, your stomach dropping in pure primal terror. Have you ever stood near a steep ledge and felt an intense, irrational fear paralyzing your legs and making your head violently spin? That sudden, dizzying panic isn't just a simple fear of falling. It is your ancient nervous system desperately warning you about the deadly sky. When a sudden shadow passes over you today, and you involuntarily flinch, your body is physically remembering the swift death brought by giant eagles. You were actively hunted from the tall grass, stalked inside the dark caves, and ambushed from the clouds. The entire planet was a death trap. The fact that your ancestors survived this multi-dimensional nightmare without heavy armor or sharp fangs is nothing short of a profound biological miracle. But sheer luck and constant paranoia were simply not enough. To stop being the hunted, humans had to invent a completely new survival strategy. They quickly realized that a single human was just an easy appetizer. The only way to cheat death was to absolutely never be alone. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival was a brutal team sport. Your ancestors formed tight, fiercely loyal groups to navigate the incredibly hostile environments. Imagine the sheer terror of stepping outside that circle. Every rustle of dry grass paralyzed your isolated ancestors with an overwhelming, suffocating fear. This paralyzing fear was actually highly efficient. If you wandered off alone, the sheer isolation would violently choke the life out of you. Being separated from the tribe, or being outcasted by your group, was not just emotionally sad. It was a literal, undeniable death sentence. This perfectly explains why you feel an intense, crushing wave of anxiety when you say something embarrassing at a party or get ignored online. Neuroscience reveals a stunning truth. Your brain processes social rejection in the exact same physical region as a painful broken bone. It literally hurts. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar found our social brains evolved to handle a stable network of about 150 people, the size of an ancient village. Today, you are forcibly connected to thousands of strangers online. Your ancient social brain is crashing, completely overwhelmed by a scale it never evolved for. Your modern social anxiety is just the desperate echo of that ancient survival instinct. It is your body aggressively trying to keep you safe, but humanity refused to remain paralyzed in the dark forever. We couldn't grow fangs or armor, so we used our massive brains to forge them. Early hand axes were incredibly innovative, but practically useless. Trying to punch a massive saber-toothed cat with a sharp rock was basically suicide. To survive, we needed distance. We desperately needed a way to inflict massive, lethal damage on these terrifying predators without letting them touch us. This is where the unique biomechanics of your thumb and shoulder changed history. It allowed you to grip a heavy spear and hurl it violently. For the very first time, the apex predators of the Pleistocene looked at the fragile, hairless apes and felt an agonizing spike of pure fear. We were no longer just running away in the dark. We had finally begun the long, bloody process of completely flipping the ancient food chain. The definitive proof of this brutal power shift lies buried deep in an open-pit coal mine in Germany, dating back 400,000 years. In 1997, archaeologist Hartmut Thiemer unearthed something impossible: the incredibly preserved Schöningen spears, completely shattering everything we knew about our ancient ancestors. These weren't crude, clumsy sticks. They were perfectly balanced, highly aerodynamic wooden weapons, meticulously carved to penetrate deep into massive, struggling prey. They were engineered with the exact same weight distribution as modern Olympic javelins, proving your ancestors possessed terrifying, calculating physical intelligence to survive. Look down at your own hands right now. The unique structure of your thumb and shoulder allowed you to wield this devastating kinetic energy. For the very first time in 300,000 years, you didn't have to fight a massive cave bear helplessly in the dark. You could completely stand your ground. You could launch a lethal strike from a safe distance, safely destroying thick muscles and crushing bone. You could finally defend your home. The sheer kinetic force of a thrown spear completely neutralized the deadly fangs of the apex predators. Imagine the incredible rush of adrenaline as the massive monsters that haunted your deepest nightmares finally turned around and fled in absolute terror. The traditional history textbooks completely ignore this visceral, blood-pumping reality. But the Ape to Legend channel reconstructs it every single week. Hit subscribe. This singular technological leap triggered a massive psychological shift. Your ancestors stopped trembling in the shadows and slowly began to conquer the harsh landscape. 50 vulnerable humans, moving flawlessly as a synchronized hunting unit, armed with lethal wooden spears, became the ultimate terrifying nightmare for any predator. You violently clawed your way up the food chain, reclaiming the territories and deep caves that were brutally stolen from you by giant beasts. However, even with the absolute most advanced wooden weapons, one paralyzing enemy still remained completely unconquered the moment the sun finally disappeared below. To truly step out of the prey category and dominate the earth, humanity had to literally steal the sun and hold it in their hands. But weapons weren't enough. The true biological revolution was fire. Evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa shows hominids controlling fire 1 million years ago. For a long time, we thought fire was just a tool to cook food or stay warm during the freezing, merciless Pleistocene winters. But fire did something far more profound to the human brain. It didn't just cook meat. It violently pushed the terrible darkness back. 30 steps of flickering firelight instantly became the fragile boundary between being the hunted and becoming the terrifying, untouchable masters of the night. The flames literally burned away the absolute power of the predators. For the first time, humans had a safe zone where they could finally exhale. Fire completely changed our sleep. Instead of constantly waking up in pure terror, our brains could sink into deep, restorative cycles essential for cognitive growth. By artificially extending the day, fire gave humanity something incredible: the evening. This was the exact moment when human imagination was truly born. Under the stars, surrounded by the terrifying dark, we became the greatest storytellers. We shared myths, survival tactics, and built an unbreakable social armor. This nighttime socialization physically restructured our brains. It forced the rapid evolution of complex language, deep empathy, and massive collaborative planning. That is precisely why you feel deeply connected to small groups today, but completely alienated in a massive group chat of 200 people. Your brain was beautifully optimized for the intimate 30-foot radius of a campfire, not the infinite, noisy expanse of the global internet. And this fire provided one more crucial advantage. It allowed us to cook our meat, unlocking a massive surge of easily digestible calories. Those extra calories didn't go to building thicker muscles or sharper claws. They went straight into inflating the most energy-hungry organ, your brain. While the mighty saber-tooth cats invested solely in massive fangs, your hominid ancestors invested everything in raw computing power, sacrificing brute strength for intelligence. Armed with the Schöningen spears and the transformative power of fire, you had officially ceased to be prey. You became the ultimate legend. This newly expanded, energy-hungry brain wasn't just built for crafting sharper spears or tracking seasonal animal migrations across the brutal, freezing tundra. Anthropologist Dunbar theorized that this massive cognitive power evolved specifically to aggressively manage incredibly complex, deeply layered social networks of 150 people. By binding these large groups together through shared stories and roaring fires, your ancestors formed a collective superorganism that no beast could ever breach. To a hungry saber-toothed cat violently stalking through the dark grass, a single, isolated human was nothing more than a fragile, screaming, easy appetizer. But 50 humans, moving as a synchronized, heavily armed phalanx with flaming torches and Schöningen spears, that completely flipped the brutal script of survival. Suddenly, the most lethal apex predators on the planet found themselves hopelessly outmatched, forced to frantically flee from the coordinated, terrifyingly smart, hairless apes. We absolutely did not conquer this brutal, freezing Earth by evolving thick armor, razor-sharp claws, or overwhelming brute physical muscle to fight back. We survived by sharing the paralyzing fear, by cooking our meat together, and by forging an unbreakable shield of absolute, unwavering social trust. This profound tribal connection is deeply carved into your DNA. It is the very reason you exist today, sitting safely in the modern world. But here lies the painful evolutionary mismatch. The deadly beasts have been entirely eradicated, and the protective ancient campfire has been permanently extinguished. Instead, we replaced the warm, storytelling firelight with the cold, isolating blue glow of digital screens, completely shattering our natural, deeply ingrained social rhythm. Your primitive brain is frantically searching for its missing tribe of 150 trusted protectors, but it only finds distant online avatars. We placed a brain, perfectly designed for communal survival, into isolated cubicles, forcing it to fight invisible modern deadlines as if they were massive predators. The chronic, suffocating stress you feel is your body constantly preparing to wildly run from a saber-toothed cat that is never actually going to attack. You are still fiercely fighting the invisible ghost of the saber-tooth. The ancient physical war is over, but your biology refuses to let you completely drop your guard. Your hypervigilant brain simply cannot turn off its brilliant survival programming. It was designed to keep you permanently alert in a lethal world. So when a loud, jarring morning alarm abruptly wakes you up, Your amygdala violently screams that a massive beast has just breached your fragile camp. Every single unread email, stressful news headline, and blinking notification triggers the exact same chemical cascade of adrenaline designed for escaping the literal jaws of death. This is precisely why you toss and turn at 3 a.m. Your nervous system is aggressively standing guard, anticipating an attack from the shadows. Historian Roger Ekirch discovered that a midnight waking period was entirely normal for centuries. It was a crucial biological sentry window to protect your sleeping family. You don't just have broken insomnia. Your powerful body is faithfully executing a 300,000-year-old protocol to keep the invisible monsters entirely away from your bed. This same evolutionary mismatch completely explains why you relentlessly crave sugar and fat, feeling immense guilt when you inevitably fail another modern diet plan. During the freezing Pleistocene, finding sugar or fat was incredibly rare. Your ancestors had to gorge immediately to build a crucial layer of protective winter insulation. Your brain is simply executing a life-saving command from the Ice Age. Consume maximum calories right now, because tomorrow you might brutally starve. You are not weak-willed. Your brilliant biology is functioning perfectly. It simply doesn't realize that the ancient, lethal winter of starvation is completely over. Because we were forced to huddle in the terrifying dark, we eventually became the artists of Chauvet, painting majestic, immortal beasts on the walls. Because the brutal, freezing world was constantly trying to tear us violently apart, we forged the most profound, unbreakable bonds of love, loyalty, and language. You are the ultimate survivor of a 300,000-year war. Every single twitch, craving, and anxious thought in your body is simply a victorious battle scar. So tonight, turn off the glowing screens. Stop forcing your ancient brain to endlessly fight digital ghosts that simply do not exist in reality. And if you wake up suddenly at 3 a.m., don't panic. Just listen to the absolute silence and quietly thank your magnificent body for perfectly remembering. Every time your chest tightens with unexplained anxiety, it is simply your ancient biology fiercely protecting you from a frozen world that no longer exists. Your brain is the ultimate, battle-tested survivor of a 300,000-year war. You are wearing the invisible armor of 1,000,000 victorious prehistoric knights. The massive cave bears and terrifying saber-tooth cats have all been buried by deep time, leaving you as the undisputed ruler of the earth. The brutal, freezing winds that once threatened to choke the life out of your vulnerable ancestors have been entirely replaced by comfortable modern walls. So place your hand over your chest, feel that rapid pulse, and realize that you carry the profound strength of an unstoppable ancient tribe. We started at the absolute bottom of the food chain, shivering in the terrifying dark, completely vulnerable to every single monster on the savannah. Yet we violently climbed our way up, not by growing thicker skin or sharper fangs, but by intensely binding together and stealing the fire. You are the direct, living legacy of those fragile apes who successfully tamed the flame, forged the spear, and ultimately conquered the entire planet. Every irrational fear you experience today is just a small, echoing biological reminder of the immense courage it took to simply stay alive yesterday. We no longer need to violently fight for survival, but we must finally learn to forgive our hyperactive minds for doing exactly what they evolved for. Your body isn't broken. It's remembering 300,000 years of history. That epic story continues. Subscribe to Ape to Legend and stay on the journey. So when you hear a sudden rustling sound outside your window tonight, let your heart fiercely race. You don't need to logically brush it off anymore. Let that ancient instinct burn brightly inside you for a split second, because the dark night is conquered and the terrifying predators are completely gone. You are the one who absolutely outlasted them all. From ape to legend, that's the profound story of every human alive. See you next week on Ape to Legend.
Look out! It's a saber-toothed cat! Don't worry, I have an idea. Roar!